All right, so let's take a look at today's opener. It's going to be solving quadratics by graphing. So when we're solving quadratics by graphing, we really are only adding one new part onto the previous week's lessons, which is finding the zeros. What are some other terms that we could use for zeros? Say again? X what? Intercept. X-intercept, roots, zeros, and solutions. Very good. Okay, so by looking at the quadratic, we can determine whether it's going to have a maximum or a minimum. What is this quadratic going to have, a maximum or a minimum? And how do we know that? There's no negative on my first term there. Okay, so a minimum value, is that going to have the graph opening down or up? Up. So the graph is going to open up. Once we determine that, we're able to find the axis of symmetry. What is the formula for the axis of symmetry? Okay, and so then what do I substitute for that b? And what do I substitute for my a? And when I solve that, it's going to be? So we get negative 8 over 2, which equals negative 4. So my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 4. So I know that my line of symmetry, my axis of symmetry, is going to go through the x-axis on the negative 4 spot. Once we find my x value, we need to find my y value for my vertex. So how do I find that y value for my vertex? Substitute. So what do I put in place of the x? Okay. Then I simplify using PEMDAS, or order of operation. Oh, wait, two negatives. Negative 4 times negative 4 is? Remember, when you're typing that in your calculator, put the negative 4 in the parentheses. So put parentheses, negative 4, close, square it. 16, then what? Then plus 12. What's 16 minus 32 plus 12? Negative 4. So my y is going to be negative 4. What does the y in my vertex tell me? What does the y in the vertex tell me?
So there's 2 negative 4s?
Yep, 2 negative 4s.
Oh, where the graph is at? That is the base?
Not the base. What does this negative 4?
Oh, that's your point.
The vertex is my point that the axis of symmetry goes through, but what does that negative 4 in my point tell me?
It's going to be on the left side.
Not what I'm looking for.
How is that going to work out?
The blank or blank value. That y-axis tells me the maximum or minimum value, right? You remember that? Okay, so what's my y-intercept?
0, 12.
0, 12. Where did I get that 12 from? Where'd that 12 come from?
The original equation.
Yeah, the original equation, the c value. Okay, so let's go ahead and plot the 2 points that I know. So I have negative 4, negative 4. And that's where my axis of symmetry is going to go through. So I like to go ahead and draw that line. Just helps me. All right, what's my y-intercept?
Negative 2.
What?
Oh, sorry. 0, 12.
All right. And then I need one other point. So
Negative 8, 12.
very good. Any questions at this point how I got all of this information? Or where any of this information came from? Where any of these numbers came from? Where any of these points that I plotted came from? Now we're going to do the zeros. That's right. Okay. So the zeros is basically the solution to the quadratic. How am I going to graph that? I have more in the closet. How am I going to graph that? Where is that parabola going to cross the x-axis. So if I had to guess, if I'm going to draw that line, where would my guess be? Where do I think?
I feel like it would be negative 2.
You feel like it'd be negative 2? Okay, well, let's do a guess and check here. So we're going to try negative 2. So I use my original equation, so y equals, so negative 2 squared plus 8x plus 12. Okay? So negative 2 squared would be 4. Oh, oops, let's put a little negative 2 in there. Then what?
That'd be negative 16.
Negative 16, then plus 12. What's what's 4 minus 16 plus 12?
0.
So my y equals 0. Why is it important that my y equals 0?
So that we don't. So it's only on the x-intercept.
Yeah, so that way it makes it only on the x-axis. So negative 2 does work because my y equals 0. So one of my zeros is negative 2. So if I go over and I plot that on my graph, it's really easy to get my second zero, my second solution, my second root, by just using my axis of symmetry. So what's my second zero going to be?
Negative 6.
Negative 5.
Oh, yeah, negative 5. I always get the negative.
I disagree. It is going to be negative 6 because if I count over 1, 2, I'm going to have to count over 1, 2. So it's going to be negative 6.
Well, every time I see a negative 5 right next to negative 6, they both look like negative.
They look fine, pretty similar.
I thought negative 6 was 5.
That's my bad.
Just how it looked on the graph, okay. Yeah, how it goes through that grid line. All right, once I plot my zeros, I can go ahead and draw my parabola. There it is. So how many solutions does this quadratic have?
2, 4, 5.
You gonna get any higher than that? Like 3 solutions or?
No.
4?
Because quadratic, what's the main thing we're looking for? 2. Now, will there be some times that we might not get, there's going to be some times where you might get only 1 solution or 0 solution, but that usually means then that quadratic can't be factored. Okay, let's take a look at the back. Maximum or minimum? Let's hear somebody besides Ben this time. Sorry, Ben. Minimum and what?
Up.
Up. What do I find next? Okay, and what do I substitute in for my B?
4.
Negative 4, right? And my A?
Oh, yeah, sorry. 1.
And that's going to equal,
4 over 1 equals 3.
how about 4 divided by 2? Because 2 times 1 is 2.
Jeez.
That's okay. Do you guys not remember me on, what day was that where I gave you the wrong notes? Mistakes happen.
What day?
What was it? Was it Monday? What? Are you being sarcastic there, Maddie? Are you being a smart aleck? Yeah, I caught that. I'm just choosing to ignore you. So I'm not going to get mad at you for making a mistake. What's 4 divided by 2? 2. So my axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 2. So my vertex will be 2, comma. Now we find my y. How do I find my y? Substitute. So for that x value, I put in what I just found, which was 2. All right. And that's going to get me 4. What happened? What'd you mess up with?
Somehow I put a 6 in for 4. I did it wrong.
Okay. But you know where you messed up?
Yeah.
Okay. 4 minus 8 plus 5, what's that equal? 1. So my y value is 1. All right, my y-intercept, Danny?
1.
Wait, hold on. What's my y-intercept? That's my y-axis for my vertex. You're right. I went ahead and plugged that in. So what's my y-intercept? Oh, you did 0, 5. Nice. Let's go ahead and plot these. Don't get your 6s and 5s mixed up here. My one other point will be where? 4, 5. All right. What is my solution going to be? What are my zeros?
I assume we all have 1. Is that 5? Positive 5?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nothing.
What do you guys think?
Nothing.
Why do you think nothing?
Well, but we usually have 0 and something, and they think it should be on the x-intercept or so.
Usually my vertex is somewhere below my x-intercept or on my x-intercept, and this vertex is above it. So that means my parabola won't actually reach down to the x-intercept, will it?
No.
No. So my zeros, what would I write as my answer? None, or I heard it.
0.
Can I write that? The solution. Now, we could get into really complicated stuff, and we could talk about the imaginary portion of quadratics,
I don't even want to know.
but you guys are shaking your head at me like no way, so we will not. We will end here.
So how do you know which number to get